Hello everyone and welcome to card 4 of my 2020 Christmas series for this year. I am super excited to bring you this adorable Lawn Fawn snowy Christmas scene using some stamp sets from Lawn Fawn. I am using the Winter Village stamp set as well as the Winter Sky stamp set and some dies from Lawn Fawn, the little house border die. And I'm also using some dies from On the Elephant. They're basics slim dies that they just came out with a couple of releases ago. I was really excited to get these. I love making slimline cards, and they're really popular. I probably made too many this year, but again, they're so popular. They're kind of trending, so I was super excited about that. So I just went ahead and did some die cutting. I just used some slate gray cardstock for my little houses, some yellow cardstock that I had in my stash, and I'm using some Neenah cardstock to do my little snowdrifts here. And I'm also using some BRISTOL paper for my main panel in the background because I am going to be doing some ink blending. I've always wanted to try this technique where you make a big moon on a night sky. So I really wanted to give that a try. I'm using some Inkadinkado masking paper. Ooh, that's kind of a mouthful. To create my little moon here. And I wanted to line up my hills and drifts and things like that, so I had an idea of how big I needed to make the moon, and so that I didn't have it too big that it was going to take up the entire scene. But I wanted to make it big enough that the little Santa stamp could fit in it nicely. So I'm getting that put down on my panel right where I want to put it, and then I'm just going to take some blue painter's tape, and I want to make sure I still have a nice white border all the way around. So I'm just taking this masking tape and trimming it down so that I can go around the stitched edge border of this base, this scalloped base panel. I apologize if my head gets in the way. I just wanted to make sure that it was nice and lined up right along that stitched edge because I want to make sure I maintain that nice thin white border all the way around. So just getting my masking tape lined up here. And this is the first time that I've ever done a masked border before. I usually just use, dies and cardstock to create my little borders, but I really liked doing this. This was a nice way to kind of keep the dimension down a little bit. I mean, I'm going to have several layers of dimension. They're not all going to be super thick, but taking away that extra needed piece of cardstock really helped save on the thickness of my card. And I still ended up with the same design I wanted to go with. So now that I got that all, masked off, ready to go, I'm going to grab my favorite night sky color combination, Salty Ocean, Chipped Sapphire, and Black Soot, to create my night sky. And I'm going to start with the lighter color at the bottom, Salty Ocean, and then work my way to the top. I wasn't too worried about near the bottom because my little scene is going to cover most of that up. And I think I mentioned in my last video that doing this night sky is my absolute favorite. Once I had that all ink blended, I took away all of the masking, and look at that perfect super white snow. I didn't like how bright it was, so I just took an ink blending brush here, add a little bit of gray ink to it, and just went around the edge of the moon there to make it look a little more not so stark white. I didn't want it to be super bright white, just so it didn't look odd against that dark background. So just gave it a nice gray tint to the edge. Now that that's all done, I'm going to get my Lawn Fawn embossing pen, again another one of my favorites, and do some snowflakes. Testing my background to see if it was dry, and it definitely was not dry, so I needed to go through with my heat gun and make sure it was nice and super dry before I started my ink blending. And I could tell right where the spot was that was super wet because I could see that there was a ton of ink right there. So I really wanted to make sure I focused on that location to get it all dry. It was a little bit better, so I figured I could probably get away with going right ahead with that. Hit it with my heat gun just one more time to make sure it's good and dry. Using my anti-static powder here. Going right in with my pen. Try not to move too quickly so that the embossing powder has got some time to actually stick. Once I had all of the embossing done, I decided to go in and check my placement of everything, of my little houses here. I wanted to make sure that I could get them placed in the spot I wanted, and that the moon was in the right spot. And it was, and I really like the way that this turned out. Had nice spacing there. Turned out great. So the next thing I wanted to do is I wanted to get into my coloring and stamping. So I chose several little houses and little trees from the Winter Village stamp set. I really like this stamp set. It's super cute. I love the little houses and things. And I'm just using my Memento Tuxedo black ink because I will be doing some Copic coloring. I really like the way these turned out. I ended up doing 4 trees, so I stamped the trees twice. Get those all lined up and stamped. Once I get all of those stamped, I'm going to get into the Copic coloring. I'm going to put on some music because it is a lot of coloring, and once we are all finished, we'll come back and we'll finish up this card together. my coloring is finished, I went ahead and used the coordinating die set to cut out all of my little houses. Now we can get ready to assemble our scene. So I just took this snowdrift here and I cut it down so it would match the same snowdrift or slope as the little houses, and I'm trimming up all of my pieces so that they will fit inside of that frame that we worked on earlier. And I had to do some finagling and fussing to get the house in there just right so that you couldn't see the other end of it sticking out above that other snowdrift. Now I'm taking just some scrap yellow cardstock and I'm cutting little rectangles to go in behind each of my little houses to make it look like they have their little lights on, where, you know, everybody should be sleeping because Santa's flying by, but who can sleep soundly or, you know, not wake up in the middle of the night when they know Santa's coming. So I decided I wanted to do this because I thought it adds to the little houses. Going along and adding all of those pieces. And it doesn't really take that long. Just cut out lots of little shapes that will fit behind. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And get that last one in there. And there they go, all of the lights are on. So now I'm going to glue that snowdrift on to that panel so you can't see the gray in the background. So it looks like the little houses are sitting on snow. And I'll trim off the excess. And I had to cut the tip of that a little drift off there so it would fit behind my other snowdrift. There we go. Looks great. And I'm going to trim off the other side here and get those all glued down, and we can get our scene put together. And this is where my glue really started running out. I really do end up using them right to the very end. But I eventually got enough out that I could glue down my little piece here. And I'm super excited because Lawn Fawn came out with some nice long Slimline dies. I know they came out with, I think it's this little house one. I'll have to double check and be sure, but it's really great they came out with ones that will go along these Slimline cards. I really like how this one doesn't go all the way across the card, because then that way I can fill the card with other things that I did. Sorry, my head got in the way. I wanted to make sure Santa was lined up exactly where I wanted him. And I just used some VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp him down because I wanted to have a nice crisp ink. Just arranging my little houses here where I want them placed. And I'm just going to glue those down flat. Love this little village. And I didn't want to add any dimension to them. I figured there was going to be enough dimension as it is, so I just decided to leave those nice and flat. Tuck the trees in behind the little hillside there. Cute little houses. Now that I had all of my houses arranged exactly where I wanted them, I wanted to work on the sentiment next. And I decided to use some sentiments from the Winter Village stamp set. I have a piece of Simon Says Schoolhouse red cardstock, and I'm just going to line it up here in my MISTI, grab the sentiments that I want, wishing you a magical Christmas, and I am going to heat emboss those with my Brutus Monroe Alabaster White embossing powder, use my anti-static powder tool, and some Versamark ink, and we'll get these all stamped and ready to go for the embossing powder. Put that away, and we'll get this heated up and cut out. I really like the way this card turned out. I would just imagine living in a little village like this out in, you know, the brisk winter and, you know, waiting for Santa's arrival. I think that'd be really cool. So I just decided to hand trim these out. You could easily use a die if you choose. It was just as easy for me to trim them out by hand. They were small enough I wasn't worried about them, you know, maybe looking a little off. And I'm going to pop those up using some Darice 3M foam strips. And that will be the dimension I wanted on my card here. I really like these Derice 3M foam strips. And I wanted the sentiment not to line up exactly. I wanted it to be kind of, a whimsical, magical, that kind of thing. So next I wanted to go in and add some white pen detail. I'm just using my Sakura white gel pen, add a little highlights to the trees, to the little houses. I didn't want to add too much because I didn't want them to look like they were overly shiny. Next, taking my favorite little white snowflakes from Lucy's Little Things. And I will be implementing some of the new snowflakes that I recently got in my last haul video. I just wanted to use these ones up because I figured they were the perfect size for this scene card. I didn't want to use jumbo ones. These ones fit perfectly. Next, I'm going to take my Nuvo Aqua Shimmer pen and, of course, add my favorite shimmer. Really get it all sparkly. Add some to the little houses, little windows. Add it wherever I feel necessary. Add a little bit to Santa here. He's magical and sparkly. Going through the... And then I thought I would add some to behind his little sleigh there, and it didn't really work out too great. So I just covered up my mistakes with a snowflake. And then I'm going to take my Nuvo Crystal Drops in Simply White and add a little bit more dimension to the trees, add a little bit more snow, add some dimension to the snow on the roofs of the houses. Really like the way that turned out. Some on the, the steps. It's very snowy. And then I'm taking that same white gel pen, just adding a few more snowflakes, just to kind of round out the background. And then we will get this card ready for its card base. Clean up my snowflakes here. I need to get an easier way of cleaning those up. I hope you guys are really enjoying the series this year. I had a lot of fun making it. It really got me through quarantine. Yes, I was making cards in the spring. I needed something to do, and being stuck at home with the kids, you gotta find something to do. So I was bringing myself some cheer and joy making my Christmas cards in the spring. So everybody thought I was crazy, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get ahead of the ball game. I'm home. I'm gonna work on it. So I'm just taking some Schoolhouse red cardstock here, and I'm cutting it down to a 3.5 by 9.5 inch card base. That will fit perfectly for my Slimline card. And Simon came out with some really great pre-cut card bases, and I think they're 100-pound white. I was thinking about getting some of those, but I like using nice colored cardstock to kind of coordinate. So I'll add some glue here, attach my little scene, and that will finish up the video for today. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you like the video, hit that like button. If you want to see more, go ahead and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys here in the next video real soon. Hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see ya. Bye!